Hello there, poetry family. I can't wear eye makeup today, so forgive the eyes, but I would like to present to you tonight the poetry of Louise Glück, who lived from 1943 to 2023, and she won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2020, and she also won the Pulitzer Prize for her book of poetry, The Wild Iris, in 1992. The first poem I'm going to read by her is called All Hallows. Even now the landscape is assembling, the hills darken. The oxen sleep in their blue yoke, the fields have been picked clean, the sheaves bound evenly and piled at the roadside among cinquefoil as the toothed moon rises. This is the barrenness of harvest or pestilence, and the wife leaning out the window with her hand extended as in payment, and the seeds distinct, gold, calling, come here, little one, and the soul creeps out of the tree. The next poem I would like to read by her is called The Untrustworthy Speaker. Don't listen to me. My heart's been broken. I don't see anything objectively. I know myself. I've learned to hear like a psychiatrist. When I speak passionately, that's when I'm least to be trusted. It's very sad, really. All my life I've been praised for my intelligence, my powers of language, of insight. In the end, they're wasted. I never see myself standing on the front steps, holding my sister's hand. That's why I can't account for the bruises on her arm where the sleeve ends. In my own mind, I'm invisible. That's why I'm dangerous. People like me who seem selfless, we're the cripples, the liars. We're the ones who should be factored out in the interest of truth. When I'm quiet, that's when the truth emerges. A clear sky, the clouds like white fibers. Underneath, a little gray house, the azaleas, red and bright pink. If you want the truth, you have to close yourself to the older daughter, block her out. When a living thing is hurt like that in the deepest workings, all function is altered. That's why I'm not to be trusted, because a wound to the heart is also a wound to the mind. This next poem is called Hyacinth. In that attitude for a flower, to stand like a club at the walk, poor slain boy, is that a way to show gratitude to the gods? White with colored hearts, the tall flowers sway around you, all the other boys in the cold spring as the violets open. There were no flowers in antiquity but boys' bodies, pale, perfectly imagined. So the gods sank to human shape with longing in the field, in the willow grove. Apollo sent the courtiers away. And from the blood of the wound a flower sprang, lily-like, more brilliant than the purples of Tyre. Then the god wept, his vital grief flooded the earth. Beauty dies. That is the source of creation. Outside the ring of trees, the courtiers could hear the dove's call transmit its uniform, its inborn sorrow. They stood listening among the rustling willows. Was this the god's lament? They listened carefully, and for a short time all sound was sad. There is no other immortality in the cold spring. The purple violets open, and yet the heart is black. There is its violence frankly exposed, or it is not the heart at the center, but some other word, and now someone is bending over them, meaning to gather them. They could not wait in exile forever. Through the glittering grove the courtiers ran, calling the name of their companion over the bird's noise, over the willow's aimless sadness. Well into the night they wept their clear tears, altering no earthly color. Okay, and now I'm lost somewhere, even though my pages are numbered. Let's see. I really don't want to mess this up because this is a really good poem. Page 4. Okay, Midsummer. Got it. Will not screw this up. Okay, here we go. Page 4 and page 5. Midsummer. On nights like this, we used to swim in the quarry. The boys making up games requiring them to tear off the girls' clothes, and the girls cooperating because they had new bodies since last summer, and they wanted to exhibit them, the brave ones. Leaping off the high rocks, bodies crowding the water. The nights were humid, still. The stones were cool and wet, marble for graveyards, for buildings that we never saw, buildings in cities far away. On cloudy nights you were blind. Those nights the rocks were dangerous, but in another way it was all dangerous. That was what we were after. The summer started, then the boys and girls began to pair off, but always there were a few left at the end. Sometimes they'd keep watch. Sometimes they'd pretend to go off with each other like the rest. But what could they do there in the woods? No one wanted to be them. But they'd show up anyway, as though some night their luck would change. Fate would be a different fate. At the beginning and at the end, though, we were all together. After the evening chores, after the smaller children were in bed, then we were free. Nobody said anything, but we knew the nights we'd meet and the nights we wouldn't. Once or twice at the end of the summer, we could see a baby was going to come out of all that kissing. And for those two, it was terrible as being alone. The game was over. We'd sit on the rocks smoking cigarettes, worrying about the ones who weren't there. And then finally walk home through the fields because there was always work for the next day. And the next day, we were kids again, sitting on the front steps in the morning eating a peach. Just that, but it seemed an honor to have a mouth. And then going to work, which meant helping out in the fields. One boy worked for an old lady building shelves. The house was very old, maybe built when the mountain was built. And then the day faded. We were dreaming, waiting for night, standing at the front door at twilight, watching the shadows lengthen. And a voice in the kitchen was always complaining about the heat, wanting the heat to break. Then the heat broke. The night was clear, and you thought of the boy or girl you'd be meeting later, and you thought of walking out into the woods and lying down, practicing all those things you were learning in the water. Now I gotta find page 6. It's here somewhere. Page 6, 4, 5. And though sometimes you couldn't see the person you were with, there was no substitute for that person. The summer night glowed in the field. Fireflies were glinting. And for those who understood such things, the stars were sending messages. You will leave the village where you were born, and in another country you will become very rich, very powerful. But always you will mourn something you left behind, even though you can't say what it was. And eventually you will return to seek it. I apologize for being so disorganized. Office Depot printed all my poems half on one page and half on the other. I don't know why. It reorganized my poems for me. So I'm going to blame Office Depot. All right, for my incredible disorganization. All right, here we go. This one is called Vespers. Once I believed in you. Once I believed in you. I planted a fig tree here in Vermont country of no summer. It was a test. If the tree lived, it would mean you existed. By that logic, you do not exist, or you exist exclusively in warmer climates, in fervent Sicily and Mexico and California, where are grown the unimaginable apricot and fragile peach. Perhaps they see your face in Sicily. Here we barely see the hem of your garment. I have to discipline myself to share with John and Noah the tomato crop. If there is justice in some other world, those like myself, whom nature forces into lives of abstinence, should get the lion's share of all things, all objects of hunger, greed, being praise of you. And no one praises more intensely than I, with more painfully checked desire, or more deserves to sit at your right hand, if it exists, partaking of the perishable, the immortal fig, which does not travel. Okay, I have one last one. It's called Mother and Child. We're all dreamers. We don't know who we are. Some machine made us, machine of this world. The constricting family, then back to the world, polished by soft whips. We dream. We don't remember. Machine of the family, dark fur, forests of the mother's body, machine of the mother, white city inside her, and before that, earth and water, moss between rocks, pieces of leaves and grass, and before, cells in the great darkness, and before that, the veiled world. This is why you were born, to silence me. Cells of my mother and father, it is your turn to be pivotal, to be the masterpiece. I improvised. I never remembered. Now it is your turn to be driven. You're the one who demands to know. Why do I suffer? Why am I ignorant? Cells in a great darkness. Some machine made us. It is your turn to address it, to go back asking, what am I for? What am I for? I hope you enjoyed these poems, Poetry Family. Have a good evening.